So raise your hand if you personally believe that COVID-19 was probably man-made. Yes, I personally believe that also. Now, I personally was not at that Wuhan lab to ever see it being scientifically studied and then released either on purpose or on accident. So I can't 100% certain say that it was man-made, but I can tell you this with over 20 years in law enforcement is that if it looks like a duck and if it quacks like a duck, then it's a freaking duck. But let's get to the point of this video, and that is that it appears that just about every 100 years that we have a good natural pandemic that really puts the hurts on us. Now, this isn't 100 years, every 100 years on the nose. Some of these pandemics you can minus or plus a few years there, but it's pretty close to about every 100 years. And also some of these pandemics that we had, especially several hundred years ago, some of them more stayed in their region and didn't go worldwide. And of course, that was back before mass transit was invented like we have it today. So the topic of this video is that if COVID-19 was more than likely man-made and there was like a 99 point something percent survival rate from COVID-19, then does that mean that we are actually due for a natural and non-man-made pandemic that will be more deadlier than what COVID-19 was? I'm talking something that will actually start really killing large numbers of people. Now, I personally am not really that concerned about our next pandemic that we have, and I'll explain that in a few minutes from now. But what most worries me about our next pandemic that we have is, as we learned from COVID-19, we have seen how so many people in our society, and also how our elected government officials, how they will take freedoms away from us underneath the guise of public emergency. YouTube seems to like to unsubscribe people. So please make sure that you are subscribed and also hit the all notifications button. Now back to the video. So let's talk about what we can do to better prepare for our next pandemic, especially if that next pandemic is something more along the lines of Black Death or something like that that actually had a pretty high fatality rate. So for actually preparing, I say let's do the usual things. Things number one, have quite a bit of food put back. This way, if the pandemic shuts down grocery stores, you have a way to feed yourself and your family. And what you're seeing here is video of the long-term food storage that I have put back for me and my family. And you can see it's a mixture of LDS food and also food that I've bucketed myself. And then what you don't see is quite a bit of freeze-dried food also. Also, if there is some kind of a disaster on the horizon, people will make a mad dash to the stores. But if you've already got food put back, then you don't have to be part of that mob that hits the stores. And if you're not part of that mob, then you're not around people that might already be infected with that virus or bacteria or whatever it is that's going to be killing people. And then another important preparedness item I have is the ability to purify my drinking water. And what you're looking at here is video of the Berkey water purifier that I use. But if we have another pandemic, I'm not actually going to be worried about filtering that virus or whatever out of my drinking water, but what I do want to be able to do is to be able to make water, to be able to get water from a creek or from a river or from a lake or something like that and be able to purify it. And the reason for that is that if we have a pandemic that's bad enough that it shuts down our water plants, I want to be able to purify my own drinking water. Now, kind of going back to the Berkey, I really trust this thing. I've put it through torture tests. I've ran dirty green lake water through it, and what comes out the other side is just nothing but crystal clear, great tasting water, and I will put an affiliate link down below to it if you want to check it out. And the next preparedness thing that I'm doing is I am learning how to make my own medicine, and I know you've heard me say that so much in my recent videos. But the more that I've studied and learned about it is there is a pharmacy that's around me here. Now, I'm not saying I can make medicine from these plants and trees that's going to cure cancer or help you with a gunshot or something like that. But there is so much around me here that can help with coughs and lung infections and bladder infections and constipation and and diarrhea and regulating blood sugar levels and stuff like that. And in upcoming videos, you're going to actually see me making different medicines from different trees and different plants that grow here. But when we have our next pandemic, being able to make your own medicine that will help clear an infection from a cut on your skin or something like that will be absolutely priceless. And of course, the next really big thing that I do is still learning how to grow my own food. And this is just a constantly learning process. But when you learn how to grow and produce your own food, not only are you providing extra nutrients to yourself, but you can also add that to your long-term food storage to help extend that and also to flavor that. So if you can grow bell peppers and other foods like that to add flavor, that will flavor your rice and your beans that you have put back. And what you're looking at here is video of my food that I have put back in long-term food storage. But the food that I grow on my own will help to flavor that long-term storage food that I have here. And I've got enough food to feed me and my family for a year straight at almost 3,000 calories per day per person, again for a year straight. But the food that I grow, not only will it help to extend this food that I have already put back in long-term food storage, and not only will it help flavor that food, but it will also provide me and my family with the extra nutrients that the food in my storage does not provide us. So by growing my own food, I will hopefully be able to turn this 1 year's worth of food that you're looking at from my long-term food storage into 2 years worth of food. Now, I'm not even really going to try to get into how to medically prepare for the next pandemic because we don't know what the next pandemic will be. And if you don't know what you have to protect yourself against, then you don't know what you need to get to protect yourself. But there are always some general guidelines that we can learn about and prepare ourselves with, so to help protect us against pretty much any pandemic or any pathogen that might be killing people. And the first thing that I really like to do is I like to keep some of this high-grade pool shock on hand, so that way I can make disinfectant should I not be able to run down to the store and buy disinfectant. And then obviously having a way to wash your hands and shower is always a no-brainer because soap will kill many viruses, and then the water running over you will wash a lot of viruses and bacteria off of your body that might otherwise end up entering into you. And before I say this next part, let me preface this. That mask mandate that we had in COVID-19, I personally believe it probably did more harm than good, especially with those totally worthless cloth masks and people just taking them off their face and putting them back on. I think those were just absolutely worthless. I think it made a lot of scared people feel warm and fuzzy inside, and that was it. However, I do believe that having a N95 or better, or a respirator or something like that, may help keep whatever bad things are out there from getting inside of you if it's killing everybody else. Especially if something is airborne and if you practice good donning and doffing techniques when you put that respirator or that face mask on or off. And then the next big thing I think that we can do to protect ourselves in the next pandemic is making it so we're not so crammed in with other people. So my personal belief is that Mother Nature, that creation, has an excellent way of just kind of learning if there's too much of something on this earth and if it's putting a strain on the resources. So my belief is that if Mother Nature senses or realizes that there is too much of a certain type of a creature on this planet that's putting too much stress on the resources, that Mother Nature will come up with a way to kill off a good number of that type of creature to get relief from that pressure from that. Think about how many times you have heard of a park near you getting too many deer, and then just almost as soon as there's too many deer in that park, then some big disease goes through and ravages and kills most of those deer off. So saying all that was just a long way to say I think it's important that that I myself, and maybe you too, have a way to get yourself away from the crowds of people, which was just another reason why I bought this land out here, so that if a pandemic or an economic collapse, or if things go sideways, period, I have a safe place out in the middle of nowhere that will be safe for me and my family to come to, especially my family. If we have another pandemic, I don't want my family to be forced to be in close proximity to a lot of other people. So what are your thoughts on our next actual real pandemic? Why don't you comment down below with them? And did you know that so many of these trees and plants that surround me here have a lot of medicinal uses that you can use to make medicine for yourself? So to see if some of these trees that you can make medicine from grow in your area, and then to see what kind of medicine that you can make from them, then click on the video that should be appearing on the screen just about now to learn that powerful knowledge. Anyways, folks, this is enough internet for me today. I do need to get back to work. And folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching. And I pray that you have a good night.